He was a brilliant artist, draftsman. And you can actually check out some of his stuff back here. These tables behind you. We'll finish up here, but he had his own architecture firm in California and was very successful for a time. And him and my mother actually shared a history of drafting. So much so that I was pulling out his drafting equipment that we found in the barn, which turned out to be, as my mother would tell me, her own drafting equipment. But we decided to pass it off as Daddy accounts, so it works. And I'm glad to say that that's another thing that has transferred down to his sons. Great artistry, drafting, and I'm so thankful for my artistic parents being able to direct us in a way, and I hope I'm doing the same now with my children. I think it is definitely an important part of life. We get so caught up in the day-to-days and the working schedules, we forget to just enjoy the beauty that we have all around us and that we're able to create. And he also was an accomplished bug man. Upon his trip back here to Georgia, he tried his hat, several hats on, and was always a great salesman, to be sure. And it finally really fell into his stride with pest control, and was able to amass a great following of dedicated customers and co-workers that he took with him to at least 3 different companies there. In fact, he had such dedicated clients that it got him in trouble with some of his transfers there to different companies where he signed the something with that effect. No competition clause or something like that. But it just goes to show just how beloved he was by so many of us. And we've tried to weather the storm of his passing as best as we can. It's certainly the toughest thing I've ever had to go through in my life. And I miss him a great deal. But I know he's smiling down on us right now. He's no longer suffering, no longer in pain. And that's our cross to bear now. And until we meet again, Dad, I love you. And thank you all so much. open up the floor. If any of you guys would love to come up and speak on any of your memories with Dad, we sure would appreciate it. And in just a moment, we'll try to hang out a couple of songs in remembrance of the old man. So you guys bear with us. We'll continue forward. And thank you all so much again for coming. I open the floor to whomever feels drawn.
Go to your microphone. I don't like those things.
No? Well, you can go ahead and talk. This room's small enough for we all to be able to hear you.
Just straighten me out.
Thank you.
Just want to let you, I know that John was one of our employees, one of the best. And he come in, if he's having a bad day, you wouldn't know. He came in the door, it was all running outside. Come in grinning. Good word, good thoughts. He was with us, I don't know when John came to work for us, but he was still with us when we sold the company in 98. So, we just had what year was it?
Well, we've been here 30 years.
And I can't remember. Do y'all remember how long that John worked with us?
8 years. I think he came in about a year after I started with y'all.
Okay, the very first
A
14
year after
years.
I did, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I worked for you and Wayne for 15 years.
Yeah.
So he probably worked at least 14 years with you.
But you couldn't ask for finer now. And I loved him. He was part of the Apollo family, just like those two back there are. They came in and worked, they didn't even have to hold their hands. They did their work. And you can't ask for any better. And we all loved each other, regardless.
So, Mr. C, as I call him, the one and only. He was the best father-in-law anybody could have. When I met him, Chris and Nick and myself, were little hoodlums and getting into all kinds of trouble. And before I actually met him, my mom had moved in across the street, and I always heard Mr. C yelling at Chris and Nick. So I was a little nervous to meet the guy. I was actually pretty scared of him. So anyways, he had found out that I was, scared of him. And I was sitting on my mom's front porch by myself, and all of a sudden Mr. C comes walking over. And he's like, "I heard you're scared of me, Jessica." And I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not." And he was like, "Well, if you had sons that acted like mine, you'd be yelling too." So that began my relationship with Mr. C. And he's always been such a supporter, and I always call him me and Chris's cheerleader, because he was always there for us, cheered us on. And you could go to him and talk to him about anything, and he was just amazing. When we brought our first son home from the hospital and he came to see him, he was scared to hold him because he didn't want to hurt him. And so I was like, "Mr. C, it's okay." And when he worked out in Gainesville or was running his routes, he'd always sneak by our house just so he could come and see us, and I know it lit up his day. Whenever he would be around anybody, he could take a bad situation and turn it into an amazing situation. always made me laugh, always made me happy, and was always there for me, and I will never, I'm very grateful for the time that I had with Mr. C.
Unlike Brady here, I've known John from the first pest control company I worked with, Apollo Canard. And one thing about working for that company, towards the end of the day, you bring in your paperwork and you go outside and talk about the day's work. Share a joke, share a family issue, and it became a family. Later on, I started my own business in pest control, and as years went on, John and I kept in touch. And we kept in touch with the other employees with Apollo, which is a blessed thing to have, because it was always a family there. Even though we're apart, we kept in touch. And John was one of them, and I was grateful for that. As years went by, John had always asked, I would like to work for you. And it was only a matter of the timing had to be right, when he was ready, or either I was ready. And as time went on, it did happen. But he did work for me for a while. And I'm guessing 4 years before he retired. In those years that we worked together, it was always a good thing. I wasn't his boss. I was his friend. And we always just shared a lot of things together. Towards the end of his life, he had a struggle here and there. He had good days and he had bad days. I always tried, and I tried to keep up with him, see how he's doing, and just talking on the phone. Right now, I know he's looking down through each one of us. He's home now, and one day we will be with him again. And I'm just glad I got to know him before his time. Thank you, John. You're one of the best.
Yeah, my name's Cliff Harris, and I know a lot of y'all knew John from here, but I first met John about 43 years ago when we both were living in California. And I was looking for a job, and I come across an ad they were hiring at this company called WSB and Associates. And so I went in there and interviewed, and John ended up hiring me. And I was new to the architectural field, really, didn't have a lot of experience, but I learned a lot working with John and some mentors in here. And we worked on a lot of projects together over the years. And like Chris said, he was a very talented designer, architect, before he came to love me. But he really was truly very talented, and I learned so much from him. And he and I used to play golf together. We used to go skiing together. We used to go to Angel games together. We just had a lot of fun. And I never met anybody like him in my whole life. And I've had a lot of friends over the years, but he was special. And he loved the Lord. Even in this company, got me design. And that's a special kind of love. But anyway, I miss him.
My name's Jerry Bowden. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I work for Fran, who's the lady that's still here, Fran and Wayne Weber. And And even after Wayne and Fran sold their company, Wayne started a pest control association to protect the small companies, because the big companies kind of had the Georgia Agriculture Department under their hands, so you know they could get away with anything. So Wayne fixed it to where the small companies could survive. And so every year we would have a pest control convention in Perry, Georgia, the agriculture center down there. And so even after we went different ways and started working for other companies, John and I would get to see each other every year at the pest control convention. I'll tell you one, I guess probably a humorous story. We had to be monitors because when we first started, we had like between 1,000 and 1,200 technicians coming down to get their class hours because we had to have so many hours of training every so many years to keep our license. And so we had to be monitors, and we would log people in and out of the gate so that they made sure that they took their, you know, got their hours honestly, rather than going out and smoking cigarettes and not actually being in class. So we had to monitor that. And we had two buildings. The main building was a big, huge auditorium, and that's where most of the pest control classes were. Then they had another small building behind that a lot of the termite classes were in. And even though John and I both only did pest control, we still had to have hours in pest control and termite. So at times, John and I would have to go over to the termite building to volunteer monitor that room so that nobody would sneak out. And we discovered one day that going back into the men's room, there was a door that was locked to the outside. And we discovered that somebody figured out how to unlock that door. So they would log themselves into the class, and then they would sneak out, and everybody would be out in the back talking and smoking cigarettes, and they were going to class. So John and I had to stand by the men's room to monitor it. And we were sitting there laughing at each other, like, you know, this is kind of funny. Here we are standing in the men's room watching people going in and out, going to the bathroom, hoping they're going to come back out of there, because if they don't, they just went out the back door. So we were all laughing about that. And sometimes when we were running our pest control routes, we would get together some mornings for breakfast. And if we didn't have a lot of people to service in the morning, we'd all get 3 or 4 of us get together and go to Waffle House and have breakfast. And so when the waitress would come up, we'd order a meal, and we would say, now we want white toast. We don't want that toast that has the bugs in it. Raisin toast. So we always got a big kick out of that. So I just wanted to lighten you up a little bit and let you know that John was a wonderful guy to know, a wonderful guy to work with. He was my friend, and even after we separated, we'd get together for lunch sometimes, and so we'd call each other up on the phone and say, hey, where are you today? And all of a sudden, so well, let's go have lunch. So we'd get together, and I hadn't been able to have lunch with John for a while because of his illness. So John, when I get up there, we're going to have lunch together.
Yeah.